So this one's a little off topic from the kind of stuff I usually talk about. But I feel like it can fall in with everything else because sports, strength and conditioning, etc., you're going to have injuries too. So you got a bad diagnosis. What do you do about it? This is weird for me. I usually try to be private about some of these things, mainly because I just don't want people to ever feel bad for me. I can't imagine anything worse than people having pity for you. So I definitely don't want anyone telling me, I'm sorry to hear that, or anything like that. I could have died 10 years ago in a car accident. So this is not something where, like, woe is me. I don't waste a minute on self-pity. I probably got that from my father, who developed terminal lymphoma, and not once did he ever say, why me, or waste a single second on self-pity. So there's something to be said about raising your sons well. The point that I want to make here is you got a bad diagnosis, and this could affect you negatively if you let it. But we will discuss something that happened to me a long time ago. It was I got into a car accident, and I had this hemorrhage in my brain, and of course they did all these MRIs using a dye called gadolinium, and it fried my kidneys. And so by 2014, I saw a nephrologist, and he told me I had about 3 months left. That sucks. And he was like, yeah, we can't get you on the organ transplant list fast enough. You're in renal failure. You've got about 3 months left. And that was 2014. Here we are, 2023. I'm still here. So today, I had to go see the doctors, and I say doctors because there's multiple of them examining me. I have a whole team looking at me. And apparently I have some very concerning demyelination in my brain, my cervical spine, my thoracic spine, etc. My spinal cord basically has lesions in it, and I'm demyelinating. This could be any number of things. It could be, we ruled out cancer, so I don't have an astrocytoma in my spinal cord or something. But it could be other things. It could be Parkinson's. It could be multiple sclerosis. It could be a whole bunch of wonderful demyelinating diseases. I don't care, and I'm not upset. I'm not upset at all. And I'm going to share with you why, and I'm going to explain to you why. Something was very powerful in my life. So years ago, this is why I told you the story about the kidney thing, because this is not the first time I've had something bad happen. I mean, I had them tell me I had cancer on multiple occasions as well. We're not going to go through all of those. They told me I had brain cancer at one point, which they were wrong. So anyways, in 2014, when I got that news that I only had about 3 months left, and, this is really bad, this is really serious, I shared this on Facebook, letting my friends know, like, hey, things are really bad. They're not looking good. And, I'm probably going to need someone to take care of Zoe. That was my dog, Zozo. And so I just reached out to let people know, if anyone's capable of taking care of my dog when I'm gone, please speak up, because it's very hard to find a home for a 165-pound Newfoundland. Thankfully, I didn't need to do that. But here's the deal. One of my friends reached out to me. His name's Jeff Alexander. He's a wonderful person. You can probably find him on IG as Fit Cajun, I think is what he is. And he does all this self-myofascial release stuff. It's fantastic. He's a really wonderful person. His wife, Carolyn, is also a wonderful person. They're two of my favorite people. And Jeff said something to me that I will never forget. He told me to heed the diagnosis and ignore the prognosis. Doctors are very good at making a diagnosis. If they make a diagnosis, they are most likely correct, especially after they run all the tests, right? So I mentioned the brain cancer thing. We didn't finish running all the tests. I had the doctors tell me it's either pseudotumor cerebri or you have brain cancer. And so they had to go through a whole bunch of testing. And, by the end of it, we figured out that I actually just had a TIA, which some people would be upset about that, and I was incredibly relieved. Best day of my life. I went in to see the oncologist expecting to be told I had brain cancer because I didn't have pseudotumor cerebri. And he told me, oh no, you just had a TIA. And I was like, wonderful. Point being, okay, So I get this terrible news that I'm in renal failure, and my numbers are absolutely horrific because the gadolinium apparently strips the nephrons out of your kidneys. So like your kidneys are literally like damaged, like physically damaged from this gadolinium contrast dye. And my friend Jeff told me to heed the diagnosis. Doctors are very good at the diagnosis part, but you can ignore the prognosis because no one can ever predict how long you're going to live. And I have to say that this has panned out across everything that I've ever experienced. I have a friend, he's still alive, but he was diagnosed with an oligodendroglioma in 2012. He's still here today. He was told he had 1 month to live. He's still here today. Oh, very good at the diagnosis part. They're right. That is exactly the type of brain cancer he has. The prognosis of having 1 year to live, no, he's still here. My dad was told he had 1 month to live. He made it 11. I was told my dog had 1 month to live whenever they diagnosed her cancer, and we made it 7. Now, the diagnosis was correct. My dad did have lymphoma. The doctor said that my father developed a rare form of lymphoma that is affiliated or connected or correlated, whatever is the word there, with glyphosate exposure. And he said that that's the type of lymphoma that my dad has. It's very aggressive, and it certainly was. He had like this lymph node that swelled up within like a month. It went from the size of a marble to the size of a softball. They actually had to cut it out of his neck. And it was wrapped around his carotid artery. So they told him like you could die from this surgery because like we could nick your carotid artery. And then he developed another one that swelled up again, and it was like the size of a softball. These marble-sized little lymph nodes turned into the size of a softball within a month. It was amazingly aggressive cancer. The same thing for my dog. My dog had a form of osteosarcoma. It's HER2-positive osteosarcoma. This is often affiliated with the rabies vaccine. Dogs develop this type of osteosarcoma at the injection site of their rabies vaccine, which is exactly what happened to her. And this was a very aggressive form of cancer, and it swelled up to the size of a softball on her bone in a very short amount of time. I mean, I don't even think it was a full month. Very aggressive cancer, metastasized into her lungs, so, we were told, hey, you're gonna have 1 month. We made it 7, okay? Heed the diagnosis. The diagnosis is probably correct. The prognosis is a different story. And that's how I feel about this even now. We're going to get down to the, whatever this is. Obviously, this demyelination and these lesions in my spinal cord is not a good thing. Obviously, I have something. Once we determine exactly what that is, okay, whatever, and I'm going to give you some perspective here. Let's say it's Parkinson's, okay? Medical science keeps improving at a rapid rate. If I can make it 10 years from now, they might even have a cure for it. That's not so bad. If you could stave this thing off, you could just slow it down, they could have a cure tomorrow. Who knows? There could be a cure in 5 years. There could be a cure in 10 years. There could be a cure in 15 years. Multiple sclerosis. Lots of people live plenty long lives. Their lives are adequately long. With multiple sclerosis, especially if you have certain forms. There's certainly more than one form of multiple sclerosis, and with MS, there are people who live decades with this. And the way I look at it is, with every passing year, you're a little closer to a cure. So if you can make it 10 years, hey, you may live long enough to see them cure it. Same thing for things like Alzheimer's. You may live long enough for them to cure it. Lewy body dementia, whatever it is. These things. It's amazing, but yeah, like we find new cures for things all the time, new treatments even. Maybe it doesn't even have to be cured. Maybe they can just find something that stops the progression. It's a new treatment, and that's all you need. So, you got a bad diagnosis. Sorry, it's a bummer. But don't let it discourage you. Look at all the good things in your life. You really have to be grateful. Like, there are so many other things that are positive in my life. It would be very myopic of me to be upset about this thing, because everything else in my life is okay. So, like, why would you let this one little thing So what? You know, I know I have a weird perspective, and it's because I nearly died on multiple occasions. I also bled to death once. That was fun. I bled out, and they brought me back. Apparently, I was gone for 10 minutes, which sounds impossible to me, but I just took their word for it. So I was gone for 10 minutes, and they brought me back. Think about how things would be if I had gone then. All the things that I would have missed. You know, there's so many things that I've enjoyed in the past 10 years, despite having this, brain injury from being hit by a drunk driver. And there's so much to be grateful for. Every day is a gift, you know. It's like my dad every night told my mom that I love you because he didn't know if he would wake up the next day. That's heavy. If you have been there, if you've been through that, you understand what I mean. Like he went into AFib and all this terrible stuff. The chemo drugs just ate his body. He lost the feeling in his feet and his hands, and couldn't play piano anymore, couldn't play guitar anymore, couldn't use his hands because the chemo drugs just destroyed it. He developed cataracts in his eyes from the chemo drugs, all this dexamethasone that they pumped him full of, and he couldn't see anymore. And eventually he lost the ability to speak. And at the same time, he was so grateful for every single day because every single day is one more gift that you didn't get promised. You're not promised tomorrow. You're not promised 5 years. You're not promised 10 years. And we should be so grateful for the things that we have in our lives. So you got a bad diagnosis, that sucks. Heed the diagnosis, ignore the prognosis. No one can tell you how much time you have left. No one knows your expiration date. And the thing is that you can live your life, the best life that you possibly can, every single day, all the way up until that unknown expiration date. And it really doesn't make a difference. Time is not as long as you think it is. Whether you live 40 years or 80 years, it's never going to be enough time. So you should make the most. Enjoy the time that you do have. Because if you make it to 80 and then you say, wow, I've wasted the last 40 years being sad, that's not going to be a good thing for you. Embrace today. Just live it, accept it. And like I said, don't let the prognosis stop you.